be, so you can take as many questions as y'all have.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as the agenda, the things I wanted to cover, it would be great to like get a little introduction from each of you, hear about your groups. Wanted to talk about volunteer to volunteer calling, Action Network, which it transformed the party, and then the campus program. So those are kind of the areas that I focus on. So if you guys want to do introductions, I can start. My phone just went off. Yeah, so I started at Our Revolution in October of 2016. I had volunteered for Bernie. I was volunteered in 5 states. Was really fell in love with organizing. Took an organizing job right after the primary with Next Gen, and then was offered the job at OR. And I have been here since. Since then, I was originally working with the help desk volunteers. They're great, respond to all of our emails, but recently have sort of taken on other projects, volunteer calling, Action Network, and some party those that we covered a second ago. But it would be great to hear from you guys about the groups that you guys are a part of, what you're working on. And if there are specific things that you want me to cover in depth or questions you have in advance, we'll make sure we cover those.
Krish, you want to go ahead and go?
Yes, I'm part of Our Revolution Georgia, and then a local chapter, Grassroots Connect. Just different chapters in Metro Atlanta. So right now, we've been trying to support our candidates that we endorse for the elections coming up in a month or so. And one of the things we're trying to do is have a virtual town hall. We had one last week for 2 congressional candidates we endorsed, and we're going to have another one this week for the 2 other congressional candidates that we endorsed. And a basic idea of that is just trying to get people engaged with the candidates we endorse. Maybe they don't want to come out to different venues, so they could just get on our Facebook Live and ask questions through our chat feature or beforehand. And yeah, besides that, we're just trying to get organized and get more people engaged.
Wonderful, thank you. You have any particular questions that you, or anything that you may want Juliana to hit on today?
I guess the volunteer to volunteer calling or texting or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, awesome. Courtney?
Well, I'm with OR Washington Murray-Kratz Coalition and OR Pierce County in Washington State, and trying to get into more. But I am interested in learning better all of the systems. So that's an introduction and no specific question.
Hi, Paula. Thank you for joining. And sorry, we had a snafu at the beginning of this meeting tonight. I apologize. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Talk about what you guys are doing in your area?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Paula Sales, and I'm the Kansas chair of the Kansas City Our Revolution group. We kind of work in Kansas City, Missouri, and on the Kansas side. So what I really am interested in finding out is how the Action Network can help us to grow our membership. And also, we have an endorsed candidate, and I really want to get the volunteer to volunteer calling going for him. So, and for, other stuff. But that's my 2 main interests today.
Oh, I guess I need to unmute myself. Thank you so much, Paula. I'm Rhonda Walker. I'm chair of the Washington Bernie Kratz Coalition, Our Revolution. We've been together for a couple years now, and so we have been endorsing and for the last couple years, and we also do a lot of coalition building. We work with probably every political party or those wanting to be like a party that there is here in the state, and we also coalesce with the organizations that are working on the issues that we're all behind as well. And we've been doing events, and man, there's just a lot to do, and we need more people to do it. So I'm really, really looking forward to learning about this call to call volunteer. I think that's going to really help us out. I mean, a lot, reaching out that way.
All right. Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you for setting this up. So I'll go through volunteer to volunteer calling, how it works, how you set it up, how groups have been using it. So essentially what we've been doing is allowing groups to, we switched the process recently to where there's a scheduling form, and I'll drop these in the chat here at the end, but it's rrev.us/B2B scheduler. And it can also be found on the FAQ. But what we've been having groups do, there's a call guide there as well, is once you create a script for your group and you have, we ask groups to have 8 people scheduled to call with them. The dialer with less than 5 people on underperforms, and you'll get like long wait times. It also means that anytime you're calling cell phones, there's a volunteer monitor that's signed up to connect each of those calls. So if one person gets on, or there's 2 people on and then somebody's taking a break, then it might be 10 minutes in between connecting a call. So we ask that you have 8 people that are signed up so that you get the minimum of 5, because sometimes people don't show up. And yeah, we want to make sure that it's a good use of your time, and then the volunteers too that are connecting the calls. So what you can do is, let me drop the links in here now if you want to follow along. Give me a second to type in the chat.
Thank you. And then when you set them up, does it just do your area, your general vicinity where you're at? We help statewide. Are we able to do a statewide?
Yeah, so right now we're actually calling on Tuesdays. We have it set up for whole Washington.
Yes.
So on that form, I believe is included in there the geography. If not, I need to add it. It was on our previous form, but we switched kind of recently so that you guys are automatically scheduling a day. But we'll pull the list based on the geography that you think is best. If you have a, say you're calling for membership for your group only, and you want to call, in the city limits, or you want to call in these specific zip codes. The broader the area, the more that we can tier the list for you. Like, these people have volunteered in the past. These people, that this is your best list. So if it really just depends on what you're calling for, and that's usually something that I talk through with the group leaders. If there is specific events you're calling for, like statewide events, we can pull people that are in a radius of an event. So it really depends on the reason for calling. And on that scheduling guide, there's also a folder with sample scripts. It has maybe 10 scripts in there. There are a couple for candidates in there. There's a couple for ballot initiatives. There's some for events and for group membership. And you, whenever you schedule a call, it'll ask you to submit a script, but at the top of that form is also that link to that folder. So you can just make a copy of one of those scripts and then edit it, and then use that, put that link in there for your script. And from that, I'll build a calling page for you and set up the service. It's great if you are on Slack, because a lot of times there's questions that come up, and it's a lot easier to or if you send me an email beforehand with your phone number, just because sometimes it's, want to make sure that we get those questions answered quickly and we get the dialer set up for you. It's also much easier if you're on Slack, because if you're having difficulty with wait times or something, something is messed up with the list you guys are calling, that's like an immediate way that you can get in touch with us. I can troubleshoot. So yeah, once you put it on the schedule, I'll reach out with any questions and send you the call page. And usually that's, like, if the script is there and you have people signed up, I'll check in with you the day before you're calling. But that's it. Let me drop the links in here right now so I don't forget.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and go with a couple that have entered to say who they are and where they're at while we're doing that?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Kevin, hi. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, say where you're at and what you guys are doing?
I'm the representative council in Revolution, Massachusetts, and also the group leader for Revolution Greater Fall River. And I'm also on the executive board of Revolution, Rhode Island.
Nice. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. It's appreciated.
Yeah, I apologize. We had some snafus, is that you said? At the beginning, so I apologize for that. But thank you for joining. And Laura's joined us.
Hi, I'm Laura Fielding, and I'm new to Our Revolution. I started an organization called Red Berets Medicare for All, knitting hats for nurses and all people that believe healthcare is a human right. We want to organize and support local ballot initiatives, local state legislation, and also support the national Medicare for All single-payer agenda for our country. So I have a lot to learn about organizing tools, but a lot of creativity and excitement to be joining the Our Revolution team. And I do have a question about, the May 6th People's March event, and if it might be possible to send either one of the press releases that we've written, or ask if we could have that sent out in something, but I can bookmark that and come back to that later if there is time today, and if not, I'll address it on another forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Sorry, 1 second. I think I just dropped an incorrect link in there, didn't I? And I sent it to panelists.
Okay, got it. So, RREV. Okay, that's where the guide is.
Okay, so that line should work. No. All right.
Do you want me to screen share so you guys can see this, or is everybody able to bring it up?
You guys see that okay? I just dropped it in the chat.
Yeah.
Oops.
Do you want me to screen share, or do you want to guys all just pull it up separately? What would be best?
Screen share for now.
For now?
If some of us don't like it, we can tell you to stop.
Yeah, I can absolutely, yeah, just let me know. Yeah, that's the hardest thing. I need to learn how to really get the word out of these events, because I know there's a ton that love what we're doing out there if they only knew what we were doing out here.
Okay, let's see. So you can see the links in here. The sample scripts are linked in there. The scheduler guide, and sort of what we went through is the steps: creating a calling plan. Are you calling for candidate, for membership? One thing that I'll say on when you're calling for membership is to be sure to, if someone says, yes, I want to be a part of your group, or I'd love to attend your next meeting, get a current email from them, and, you know, write it down. If you have your emails in Action Network, add it there. If you want to, if you have yours in a CSV or however you keep your membership list, ask them for a current email while you're on the phone. That way you can reach out to them with stuff that you have in the future if they can't make that meeting, but getting any contact information you want to use in the future. And then the second step after you've sort of made your calling plan is drafting your script. In that sample scripts folder, you can see some of the call scripts that we've used in the past couple months. Some of them are a little bit older, but there's why we did volunteer to volunteer calling. There's number of candidates. There's a sample membership script. You're welcome to make a copy of any of those and then edit it to match what you're calling. And then, yeah, you'll start recruiting and schedule your event. So reaching out, making sure you have people that are available to call. That scheduler will allow you to, like, the form will automatically take away days as they're scheduled. That way we don't have too many people sign up for the same day. So if it's not there, it's because someone else has already scheduled that time. And if you have questions or if there's a date and time that isn't there, you can either send me an email or Slack me, and we can see if it's possible. There are times that, you know, we have someone cancel, or that, you know, there's where we've run multiple people at once or multiple groups. So just reach out. And does that answer all of the, do you have more questions about calling?
So the setup and training, is that just with the group itself, just getting it set up, or is that with every call event scheduled? The first 30 minutes is a setup and training beforehand, and then you get 3 hours of calling?
So it's, you don't need to include the 30 minutes in that time, but there's usually, and we see almost every time, sometimes with groups, we've had a couple groups that have called multiple weeks in a row, or for multiple candidates weeks in a row. And the setup time isn't usually there, but if you are calling, usually if you're calling with a group and it's a first time calling, there will be about 30 minutes in there that is setup time. And if you want to shorten the amount of time, so the schedule has 4-hour blocks on it. I think on the weekends it's set for 4 hours and 3 hours during the week, but we can alter that time as well. You know, it's like we have a group that's calling this week that is calling for 2 hours, because that's just what works best.
Okay.
But typically that's how it's set up, either 3 or 4 hours of calling.
And then we need to be able to maintain that full calling time, at least 5 people, right? Minimum, but preferably 8.
Yeah, I mean, if it drops to 3 or 4 towards the end, it's not, you know, the end of the world. It's just going to be a lot slower. So
Okay.
Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes you're on hold for 2 minutes between calls.
I have a question. Are we calling off of our Revolution list, the big master list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like right now, Washington Democrats has a nice email list, but Tacoma has 12 people. So like I wouldn't need 4 hours to call. So it's nice to hear that we'll be calling the bigger list.
Yeah. So anytime you set up calling, I'll sort of, if there are any questions about the like geography of where you want to call, I'll reach out. But I'll pull that list, load it in the dialer, and yeah, you'll be using the same dialer you used during the Bernie campaign. It's live box and call through.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. I can't wait to start using this. Anybody else have any questions on the call to call for Juliana? No, great.
Well, actually, I was wondering if the link to that document, if it's possible to copy and paste it to the chat.
It's inside the chat, but I'll also put it within the event that we just, I'll put it in the event here too. So,
Okay.
it's in a couple places. So yeah, I'll do that right now. But yeah, it is in the chat right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll just say it out loud because it's kind of short. So all of our short links start out rrev.us and then / and this one is B2V call guide. So volunteer to volunteer call guide. B the number 2 and then V call guide. So the next thing on the list was Action Network. Are you guys okay with moving to Action Network?
I am, yes.
Okay. So Action Network is a tool that allows you to build your own membership database. It also allows you a lot of the functionality of the database that we use, like you can create your own signups, petitions. Signups and petitions are pretty similar. You can create letter campaigns. You can send emails from it. I have talked to some of the groups who have used it they've created short links. You can do fundraising in there. I know that you have to connect with their 4 options for connection. I don't remember what they are. It's not an area I'm connected on yet, but they tested different messaging through ads for fundraising for their local group and used different short links and tracked that. The email side of it allows you to track open rates, click rates. You can add tags to each of the activists in your list. That way you know, okay, this person does a lot of stuff for climate and environmental justice. So we're going to send them this email or let them know about this event if you don't want to send too many in a week. And but there's a lot of things that you can do in Action Network that we think are really beneficial to groups and to your membership and keeping people informed. One of the things that I also think is incredible that I keep meaning to add to the training yet but haven't is it'll allow you to create ladders of engagement. So say someone signs up on a random petition that they find in a group that they're in that your group created about something local. You can create a ladder in Action Network that will then automatically send them a welcome email. And then one day later, you can set a timed second ladder step. So wait one day and then send this email, like get involved on these volunteer teams, and you can create all these different steps. You can create geographic steps if you have a statewide group and you're saying, or like a group that spans multiple counties, just send this email based on what their zip code is. But those ladders can make decisions for you and sort of help keep people engaged in the work you're doing when you bring in new people. But Action Network is a pretty powerful tool. And yeah, we've seen a lot of groups that are having success with it. I think we definitely need to work on updating the training and adding more stuff because there's just a lot in there. When we got started with Action Network, I'm the Action Network admin, but I was just learning as I go. So that is Action Network. I don't know if you guys have specific questions. I'll go into in a second how to get set up on Action Network. But if you guys have questions about how it works, what it does.
We've been using Action Network again for a long time, but haven't been able to delve into all of its glory either because there's so much. But I would like to really learn about the best way to do those ladders and the best ways, you know, maybe talking with some of those groups that use Action Network a lot, especially more in detail. If anybody's willing to really walk through the whole kind of best way to and when and how, that would be great. I could use that kind of help.
Yeah, and maybe I can talk with one of the group leaders in, oh, I need to grab my phone charger, in Wisconsin. He and I led an initial training. He is the one who taught me a lot of the stuff I know in there, and I can lead on a lot of the things, but maybe we can set up another live training with some of the more detailed questions, or I can't make any promises on that. If not, I can respond to most of the questions. There are a lot of things, you know, as far as ladders, I could definitely walk you through that. And also, I'll drop my You Can Book Me link in here. It's something that's gone out in emails before as far as Action Network, but if there are specific features that you have questions about, you're more than welcome to schedule a time on my You Can Book Me, and I will walk you through sort of one-on-one.
Okay.
How we use that, how we've seen that feature used before.
Yeah, it's more of the planning, the strategic planning of it, because I can figure out, you know, once you get in there, it is kind of step by step being able to fill those out. But yeah, I'm more like strategic, like the best that you guys have found to really keep people engaged.
Yeah, let me see what I think that's a good point. I think there are features too. So maybe we can set up another call specifically on Action Network.
Okay.
I know there are a couple groups that have done some unique things with Action Network. We can see.
That'd be beautiful. Thanks.
Do other people have questions about Action Network? Like sort of big picture questions. I'll walk through getting set up unless you guys feel comfortable with how that works. Sorry. I'm trying to charge. Okay. I'll walk through pretty quick because the Action Network sign up is really just 2 steps. You'll go to rrev.us/Action Network, and I'll type that in the chat right now. And that will ask you to sign up on a form with your administrators, you know, just so we know who to create the account under. And then the second step will be to, and it will come in an email as well, will be to take the Action Network training course. And so this is roughly 2 hours worth of video, but because these are, like, we want to make sure that you can use the features that are in there. And so it covers some of the basic stuff like creating an event, sending an email, always open to feedback if you have things that you think are missing from that training once you're in Action Network. Long term, I would love to add some of those videos with sort of the unique test cases that, you know, we've seen groups use. I think that would be a great thing to include in there. But right now it sort of just covers like the basic tools that groups have been asking for. And there's a short quiz at the end. And then once you pass the quiz every Thursday, accounts are created. I'm typing these in the chat right now. Do you guys have any questions about Action Network?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So our group has changed, like our leadership has changed. And how would we know if somebody in our group had previously signed up for Action Network and never did anything with it?
If you reach out to me either on Slack or, I mean, Slack and phone, I'll say this up front, if any of you guys are in my state, Slack and phone are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I have a lot of the systems-based stuff like Action Network, you know, groups, MOU, and so I get a lot of technical questions, so it's a little bit slower in email, but if you reach out to me either by phone or on Slack, I can definitely look into that for you.
Okay.
And I'll drop my contact information in here as well. Is that everything for Action Network? Okay, I'm gonna go into transform the party. Sorry, typing in my email.
Okay. I did post these steps into this event thing.
I keep dropping it to, oh, is almost everyone here is set up as a panelist, correct? So
Yes, they are.
okay, just making sure everyone can see the messages I'm sending.
There's only one as a call-in listener, but I am copying and pasting the stuff that you are putting in here into the event itself, posting it so people can go back hopefully and find it okay.
Okay, so I'll cover Transform the Party. Transform the Party is a project that our revolution has run for probably a year. It's one of the earlier projects that we started. And what it involves is getting people involved in their local Democratic Party to transform the party rules, to transform sort of their local Democratic Party. And so before, the way that we did it is there was a team of volunteers that did research on each of the party's rules, sort of their bylaws, when their elections are. This, I mean, just want to give all the credit to them. That was like a very tedious, since a lot of states, the rules are different everywhere and very complicated and outdated and written in a way that's incredibly complex, which is part of why we do this. But the way we have been running it recently, or still sort of testing it, and this is based on feedback from some of the states that had previously had transformed the party in their state, is we're sort of letting local groups lead on this. So there was a form that was sent out in an email a couple of weeks ago, and I can grab that form link right now as well. You can also reach out to me if you have an upcoming Transform the Party date. But groups have been coordinating with me based on the date of their, it's usually a filing date for, they have different names everywhere, county committee member, precinct committee person, and I've been working with the groups to create a guide, and that was one of the things that people who had tried to get involved or did get involved in their local party is, you know, I didn't feel prepared or like I knew what was going on, you know, because we tried to put as much text as possible on the page, you know, but it was just sort of complicated. And so the way that we've sort of changed it is, once we have sort of the point person either in state or in county, we've been creating an action network specifically for that and having people sign up there. So we'll text our revolution supporters or people on the list in, whatever geographic region it is that they're having people file, either statewide, county, or county by county. And once they sign up, they automatically receive that guide. And so not only do they have a guide that includes, all the information on what they need to do to file. When possible, we include the actual document they need to file, but information on what to do after they file, sort of what to expect. And then we've also been including webinars. Not every group has done this, but most have recently, is adding a webinar where they let people get on, ask questions, sort of go through the process of filing. And then with that Transform the Party Action Network site, you can send people information as far as, hey, there's like our statewide convention, is coming up. Please be sure to attend or vote on this, or here are the progressives that we think our party should endorse in state. So that was sort of the intention, of sort of giving groups the power to lead on this instead of just directing people to the site and open it. It goes from there. But yeah, that's sort of where we're at with it. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about Transform the Party?
You said you had a link for that one?
Yes, let me grab the link.
And then, so we had actually a really good response, of course, right after 2016 of people going into the party to reform. And in Washington State, we had some areas that were very successful. We're able to actually overtake, it's all progressive now, but the ones that we weren't truly able to take over, it's gotten like really nasty, really bad, and a lot of our progressives are leaving. How do we try to reinvigorate them to go back in when they really, it's bad.
It's like
the way they're treated.
Abuse that we're dealing with.
Extreme emotional abuse. There's been times where cops have been called in certain areas for because how nasty these other people were.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have and so these are the areas where you weren't where people didn't get involved and get elected, correct?
Oh, well, we had people going in, but we weren't able to take over all of it. There's like really entrenched areas where we were just about to, but they called on, their moneyed establishment people to come in when they never do, just to keep certain people in play, like in the chair position and stuff. And then they started bringing people in and bullying, nasty stuff. And people stuck in and for a long time, and they just couldn't anymore. And I'm not sure we can get people back in to try it again.
Yeah, I think it's important to remind people that this is sort of a long-term thing, that, the Democratic Party is, it has been a long road to get to this point where it's, doesn't serve the people. It is sort of just like a hollow shell of the party, and it's going to want to hold on sort of the power that it has as much as possible. It's not going to sort of just yield that easily.
Right.
And reminding people about the impact that they can have. And so I think there will definitely be people that, are done, but you will find more people who are invigorated or ready to go. And actually, Washington is one where I'm working with the developer who actually started Transform the Party, and working on a plan to sort of roll that out in Washington soon, because you guys have an upcoming filing deadline.
You're working on, what was it in Washington?
The Transform the Party, the filing deadline for PCO is coming up. And so if I can connect with you guys afterwards if you sort of want to look through what, is put together so far. I've mostly been just the first person that contacts me, been working through it with them, but would love to bring you guys in. This is this switch has been relatively new, and this project is relatively new to me. So open to feedback and
Yeah, we'd love to be connected into that for sure.
Thank you. And Rhonda, heads up, I'm switching from computer to phone, so
Okay.
yeah.
Do people have any questions so far? My phone is down to 1%. I'm hoping that it's plugged in, that it.
Oh, it's gonna die.
Oh, yeah. This eats up power. No, we can always touch base again later. Like I said, we can always redo this to where, because I think we lost some people that weren't able to get in originally, probably didn't try again. So I know we're missing a bunch that were interested in meeting.
I was Kevin here, and of course, not unlike it's been mentioned, each state is different, right? The states formed the federal government; it wasn't the other way around. So there's uniqueness and specificity to each state. So I mean, I wouldn't want to generalize, but being involved, even though I'm in Massachusetts, I'm on the border of Rhode Island. I'm in Providence at Brown University, much more than I am in Boston, which is the capital of my own state. And it's fascinating. I'm trained in comparative politics, usually comparative politics of different countries, but it's fascinating just seeing the differences in the Democratic Party in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and how they have run very differently, even though they're adjacent states in New England. So, and pretty much with similar politics when you look at the parties, but not how the parties are actually organized and how they function. But one thing I have noticed that is in common, and that I think probably would be applicable in some way throughout the country, more or less, is the idea that a defeat is not a defeat, in the sense of if you can gain knowledge as to how things function, find out what the rules are, participate at some level. It's almost inevitable sometimes, new people to the process, are going to encounter difficulties often. It's not inevitable, but it's not surprising. But that's new knowledge. That's gained. You've gotten people who might have never been involved and they've learned something, even if it's hard knocks. So, kind of twisting things around and realizing, some experience was gained, even in a loss, is true. It's true. And, that's not inevitably, but often the case that those are necessary steps forward. And so encountering difficulty, try to spin it in such a way, and spin has a negative connotation. It's not negative. It's a learning experience. And it's it's essential to, eventually our long-term success in each of our communities, each of our states, and in the country. And by doing so, we're going to invigorate the party. There's a certain point that sometimes, some people might try to, monopolize the process and by doing so, diminish the party and its strength. They have a greater control over it, but there's less of participation. They control by minimizing participation. And we've got to go to the other way, maximize participation. It'll be good for the party, the real, what the party should be. And it will make it much more dynamic and successful. So that's just some things that came to mind. If it doesn't seem to be helpful or applicable to you, ignore what I said. If there's anything of value, please do, take it, with the intent that it was, that I was trying to convey it. Thank you for your patience with me.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for all your work. And Massachusetts has you have something coming up, Transform the Party related too, correct?
Well, last year we had 700 people at the statewide convention, and it was mostly about the platform. And we got the most, progressive platform in the country, or not the country necessarily, our most progressive platform, and one of the most progressive in the country. But of course, unlike Europe, we don't have there's advantage and disadvantage to our party system. But it's hard to get party discipline in the United States. It's a federal system and primaries, elections. It's not like, conventions in Europe where you know where the party stands and there's discipline. And there's advantages and disadvantages to their system. But, trying to get that enforced or trying to, implement it is sometimes a bit of a challenge. So it's not just, on paper. This year we're having a convention coming up in June, and it's endorsement of the big issue is endorsements of statewide candidates, and it's still what we're trying to grapple with on a state level is should we endorse, who do we endorse, at what time, and those things are still not resolved. And in a sense, yeah, it can be frustrating, can be challenging, but at the same time, grappling with those issues in and of themselves are valuable. And I think one thing that we had luck with is I was part of an intern coordinating committee, and the statewide organization initially was a whole bunch of people, who were Bernie delegates, appointees to the national convention. And so quite a few of them were experienced, either elected officials or, people active in the party, not wholly so, but to a large extent. And that provided some good experience that was later shared with, the affiliates. And I was taken back when Juliana was talking about, these party documents being complicated. When you get to my age, it's more of this up-to-date technology that I find, more challenging, not those documents.
Fair.
And with Rhode Island, it's incredible frustration because, in Massachusetts, what they have in those documents, pretty much, people adhere to those documents. You can feel like when you, get on their website, it's not the most pleasant reading. But if you read it, it pretty much, that's how it works. And in Rhode Island, there's this frustration with the Our Revolution people because, what it's in the documents and what actually happens, there's a world of difference. and there's, a bit of frustration and anger and I'm more of an observer of that place, but, and that was one of the key differences between the states that I'm saying, in very blue states.
Thank you. Juliana, somebody did post in our meeting thing, Derek Evans, underneath the volunteer to volunteer calling link I put in there, that he said he did put in a request with the group's availabilities and never got a response about how to proceed.
I can look into that one specifically. I don't know. So we had used a previous scheduling document, and I'm not sure. I mean, I checked this form earlier today, and this, I'm not sure if you're referring to. Yeah, I think you probably requested it on the initial form we used. The initial form that we sent out didn't allow you to secure a date. It just sort of was like select ideal dates for you, which seemed like a better idea at the time, but we build the plane while we fly a lot of times, and that was, we wanted to set it up so that you can specifically mark off a day that's yours that, I'll notify you if there's anything that comes up, but for the most part, the new form will allow you to select a date and time range, and we already have your script. I think the complicated part of that first form was that none of the previous steps were set up, and so it was like a long process getting through some of the initial signups. And so the way it's set up now is that stuff is done on the front end and it's scheduled. So this should be, I don't see anything filled out for you here, but if...
Oh, no, not for me. This was a message. So within the event that was created for this, there was a post in there when I posted the links to volunteer. So I let them know that I'd let you know and that you'll follow up with them because it's in here, and that the forms have changed. So now you should be able to sign up for the days. But I was just letting you know that there's one out here for maybe a follow-up for you.
Yeah, I'll check it out in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? And we can definitely do this again. wasn't as prepared as I would like to be able to walk you guys through it all on my computer, but also the other link that I forgot was my You Can Book Me link. So if you guys have specific questions about something that we covered here, we can do an individual walkthrough with you. So let me grab that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, I'd just like to say, Juliana, what you've done tonight, your postings on the Facebook page, you're engaging with, you're doing this outreach, you're making the connections, it's excellent and appreciated. You're doing your job very, very well. And, it's a very difficult job. Like you were saying, you got 50 states, each, all these groups. And and sometimes people might feel like, oh, no, national, some people, people in Washington of all places, right? And then, to know that there's someone like you who's grappling with these issues and has this, is articulate, intelligent, but and also has her heart in this, reflects well on the people who hired you, and so your work and your competence in trying to address our various needs are very, very much appreciated.
Yeah, I second that.
I appreciate that a lot, and yeah, I want you guys to know, like, I'm here for you. The other organizers are here for you. There are times where I don't get to my email for 5 days, and things are crazy, or I was sick all last week, so I have no idea if anything's going on in that group. But I was at the training beforehand. But if there are things that you need, like, please feel free to reach out to me by phone. That's my cell phone. I'm on Slack. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and I know that it is not easy. I know that it's exhausting a lot of times. But I just want to say thank you, and yeah, more than happy to do this again. And more than welcome to reach out to me on You Can Book Me. Let me drop that link in here now, otherwise I'll forget. But yeah, thank you guys, and thank you, Rhonda, for organizing this.
Yeah, thank you for taking the initiative, Rhonda, to make this all happen. It's appreciated.
It's our pleasure, and the more we all meet, the better it all is too. So it really builds that community that we all need to come together with. I know.
All right. Well, unless anyone has any questions, you guys say in the chat right now are the steps to everything we talked about. I'll drop anything that I forgot in the Facebook. But phone number, email, Slack name, and yeah, that's everything. Thank you for hopping on and for being patient. I know that some of the stuff, like the volunteer to volunteer calling, and those processes have changed and been confusing. A lot of times it's because we get feedback from you guys and realize, you're right, that was a terrible idea, or this could be better. So thanks for your patience and for all the work you're doing.
Oh, we appreciate it. All the tools that you guys are giving to us really has helped us out over here. So we appreciate that.
All right.
All right. Anybody have anything else at all before we go in? Questions? Last questions for Juliana? Nope. Go ahead and say what you want to say before you leave.
Thanks for working with us, Juliana.
Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Juliana.
Thanks, Juliana.
Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds great. You guys all are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Oh, very welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So much fun. You're muted.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I wanted to talk to